understand if there was a male version of me, he would have millions of followers because men are part of the patriarchy. If there was a male version of me, white society would roll out the red carpet for him. They'd be like, oh my God, you are the Messiah. You are, but I'm a woman. If there's ever a male version pops up of me, that man is going to be celebrated from here to kingdom come. Because we don't talk like that. You know? And they are aliving their own children daily.
Read, nigga, read!
Hopefully everything's all right. Okay, here we go. Let me check the stream on my phone. Checking the stream online. And for some reason, it's being real slow. Okay. Give me a second. Let me allow this to catch up. I want to make sure everything is flowing properly. Before I jump into the topic and the subject matter of today, got to excuse the AC in the background. So if you hear some static in the background, that is the AC. It's literally right behind me. It throws out a lot of noise at the same time, so it is what it is. Yeah, I appreciate y'all sticking with me while I try to work through these audio issues. It can be quite cumbersome. Trying to figure it out. Duplicates. Okay, let's see. Let me try this one right here. Stream of the week, vertical. Stream of the, okay, so that one is good to go. Let me go back to Let me go back to my stream here and see what I got. All right, so if you're not aware, this is No News Podcast. Want to give my thoughts on the DNC and what's going on right now. I mean, I know they're live at the moment. I don't really care about today. I want to talk about yesterday and how these folks were just straight playing in your face. But before I get into that, let me do some formalities.
You are now listening to the No News Podcast. Weapons free. Manly force is authorized.
All right, so there's not too much you can. You don't have to censor yourself. Say whatever you want. Say how you feel or whatever in the chat. Thank you for joining me this evening. I know this is impromptu. I just want to jump on here and get my thoughts while it's fresh on the brain. And before dinner, I don't want to stay on here too long. Okay, let me go ahead and hit the button for this AC. All right, I've cooled it off enough in here, so that way we'll be all right. Okay. So continuing on with the discussions that's going on, I think the most surprising thing that's going on is what's happening with the DNC. These folks sat up here and lied to our face, saying that the country is more secure, more prosperous. You have nothing to worry about, pretty much, if I sum everything up from every single speaker that spoke last night. I was livid. Me and my wife both watched the DNC last night. We were absolutely livid with what's going on. So without further ado, let's get into this and let's jump on in, okay? This is DNC 2024. This is what they had going on. Nice, spectacle. I don't know if y'all seen the pictures of what happened prior to the DNC, but they had a lot on display. They pretty much pushed out a lot of the residents. They put up fencing everywhere, and not one incident happened around the DNC. Now, this is an indictment on the Democratic Party and everything that they've done thus far. Okay, the reason why it's an indictment, because Chicago had incidents stemming from, all year long. Some of the worst violence you've seen was around like the 4th of July. You've seen things happen there where a number of people lost their lives. Now, it's funny to me how all of a sudden when the Democrats come into town, you can clamp down on the gun violence and everything else going on in the area. You have the ability to enforce certain laws, or you have the ability to show police presence during this 4-day event, but for the rest of the year, you won't spend that kind of resources. You won't spend that kind of time trying to tamp down the violence going on in Chicago. It's amazing to me. You got money for this spectacle where they're lying to our face, but you don't have any money to make sure the citizens who are good, there's a lot of good, wholesome citizens there, and you won't protect the people who vote for you. Like, this is why I put the thumbnail up, sleight of hand, because that's exactly what it is. They're telling you one thing, but one hand is not watching the other. Now, let's go into this. I'm going to go to a certain point because, and fair use, you see it on the screen. Fair use is allowed for commentary, but I'm going to scroll to see where I can find, wait, who the fuck was that? No, that wasn't Charles Barkley. All right. So I want to scroll all the way to Raphael Warnock because his bitch ass came on running his mouth. Shit, lost it. Where we at? Okay.
So much for us. And there's so
He
much
hasn't done shit. Shut up. Wait, Warnock was, where was he? There we go. There's Warnock. You big ass Sambo son of a bitch.
And in a strange way, heal the wound from other people of America. We always
Hang on, I'm trying to find the right spot. I'm working off my iPad and a PC at the same time.
He should try reading it.
Exactly. He said the plebes don't deserve protection from themselves. Well, I'll say this, right?
Because these
Sometimes, you know how the saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. All right. Now, I have a belief that there's a lot of good citizens, but they participate in a lot of the shit that's going on just so they don't get messed with, okay? It's like when you're in high school and you kind of roll with the in crowd. You know, like especially if you're a nerd or you like nerdy things, you roll with the in crowd so people don't fuck with you, right? And that's pretty much what's going on in Chicago. You go along to get along. I don't know a whole lot about Chicago, but I will say this. What's happening there is similar to what happens in where I'm from, which is Baltimore, where you go along to get along. The violence is outside your door. And unless you want to be the target of specific people who are in the game, you just shut your mouth. The citizens are terrified. They're terrified. Clearly, they have the police presence to prevent all the stuff going on. It's not like it's black folks bringing in the guns. I said this in another live stream. If you see a dark-skinned man with cases or crates or whatever at a port, you're not gonna question him. I mean, let's be for real. These people do not deserve what's going on.
Sometimes they're miscarrying, scared to tell anyone, even their doctors. Our daughters deserve better. America deserves better.
Quick caveat, your daughters deserve better if they do what? Pick better. You can't expect sympathy from me if you're sitting on Pookie and Ray Ray lap. Sorry.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will fight for reproductive rights and our freedom and our shared future.
All right. Reproductive rights. Let's talk about this play on words, okay? Reproductive rights, saying you don't have them, is like saying that you're not allowed to have children, okay? Let's say there was a rule in place saying that you're not allowed to have children unless you meet a certain income threshold. Now, that would be denying people reproductive rights, but we know it's the exact opposite. We know that people who shouldn't be having children are having children all over the place. They're getting benefits for it. At one point, California had to tamp down on the welfare system because they were getting so much money per child. People were having like 8, 9, 10 children. And then they capped it. And then that became the model for every state going forward. They capped it at, 3 or 4 children. You can't get any extra benefits for having more than 4 children in most cases, right? Okay, that's a reproductive right. You've always had it. Nobody's tried to stop it. Nobody said that, hey, after 4 children, you got to go to the clinic and get snipped. Nobody's ever said that. What these folks are advocating for is the right to delete fetuses. I got to be careful with my words here. They even rolled out a damn bus for vasectomies and deletions during the DNC. How sick is that? Y'all don't care about these kids. Y'all don't care about the welfare of the country. You know that if you limit or start deleting the number of children there are in this country, you know what happens? Eventually, the population is going to get old. We're seeing this in other countries like Japan, China, all these other countries overseas where their birth rate is so far gone, they have an aging population. It's always the next generation who always props up the current system. You need an influx of new workers to continue to pay taxes and to put in for the retirement benefits of the previous generation. That's how it's always been. You can't argue with that. The system has to keep going somehow. You need fresh blood. However, the way these folks are going about it, they are bringing in illegal immigrants to subsidize the system by letting them, fall over the border. They're going to have children in about 10 years. Your children are going to be competing with these folks from DACA who have children who are born here out of nowhere, not out of the regular population. You're just going to get blindsided with a Cinderella story about how these folks came here with nothing and made it happen, which is a lie because they give them benefits. We've seen the damn near $20,000 worth of benefits they've given some of these people who have left receipts behind. So y'all can cut it the fuck out. That's why I call this live stream sleight of hand. They're telling you all these good things on one hand. All you see is the good things, but behind the scenes, when you start reading the documents and start really looking into it and reading the stats, you see the lies are right there. And by the time most people figure it out, it's going to be too late. If these people make it back in the office, all of a sudden the information, they're going to release the stranglehold on this information they've been trying to suppress. And all of a sudden you be like, wait a minute. They've been lying to us, right? Have we not seen this before? I'm not saying that Trump hasn't done the same. Right. And you're absolutely right. USA is below the replacement rate, right? Most countries are below the replacement rate. But the population who's hopping the fence, they have the ability to go above and beyond because they believe in those traditional values, having a bunch of children and so forth. And they're willing to do the work and sacrifice to make sure that they're okay. But people in the current system, they don't have the wherewithal to do so. But yeah, I can't remember what the exact number is in the U.S., but yes, we are there. And it's crazy that we're there. But that's because of a social issue, which I'll get into at another time. Let me continue on with this video, and we'll jump into Raphael Warnock. Got to excuse some of the filters I got on here for fair use. I got to transform this a little bit.
I was an All-American girl, varsity soccer captain, cheerleading captain, homecoming queen,
No rings on your finger?
survivor. I was raped by my stepfather after years of sexual abuse. At age 12, I took my first pregnancy test, and it was positive. That was the first time I was...
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. It's unfortunate what happened to this young lady, but you got to understand that her own mother was complicit with this, okay? Now, my heart goes out to people like this. Nobody would argue that when these incidents happen to people, nobody's going to argue that. When these incidents happen to people, baby deletion should be absolutely on the table for SA and any child that comes of a unwanted pregnancy due to violence. Due to violence, that's the key word. Due to violence. People on both sides of the aisle will agree with that. Incest and all that stuff, we will agree with that. But trying to use this small percentage as a crutch to allow all people to do it is going to end up hurting this country. You got to understand, I'm a black man. I understand that there are 20 million confirmed deletions. That's 20 million less people, which could have added to the replacement rate of this society that are gone. Because you got to understand, 20 million, so let's say each one of them has 2 children. Each one of that 20 million has 2 children, right? Better yet, let's split it in half. Let's say 10 and 10. 10 million females, 10 million males. Now, if they all got together and they all had 2 children, that's at least 20 to 30 million children. Because not everybody has 1, not everybody has 2, and so forth. This is just a rough estimate. If I'm not mistaken, last time I looked at the numbers, it was somewhere between 330 and 350 million people in the United States. So add that to that number. So you're looking at maybe 360. And then those people are going to have children as well. And the number keeps going up. We would have at least come close to replacement rates a long time ago to fix this country. Granted, a lot of stuff has to come into place, like stop spending money overseas, which is what Trump tried to do, and what fiscally responsible politicians should be doing. Stop spending all our money outside the country, because that money does not recirculate back into our system like it does when you invest in your own people. Now, I've met business owners who have spent money on people and they repaid them by staying on the job and continuing service. And what I mean by that is they would send them out to get all these certifications and stuff like that, and then they would work, extra couple years or whatever, because the average, lifespan of people working at places are, 3 years? But I know people who've stayed in places for 3 to 5 years and beyond because their employers invested in them, right? So when you invest in your own people, you're going to get a return on your investment, not like how it is when we send all our money overseas to feed folks who don't have a chance of coming here, who are fighting wars we wish we could fight. I said it, we wish we could fight, which when in reality is none of our business. Whatever's going on over there, we can't be super Captain Save-A-Hole and run overseas for everything that goes on. But I digress.
He called no option.
Let me get her out the way. Fuck is that guy?
Constitutional right away from.
Oh, Jesus. And one thing, let me say this while I'm looking for the exact spot where I saw Warnock, right? It's kind of weird on this iPad. I'm trying to get it just right, but let me say this.
And among those Georgians.
All right. So he before I get on to Raphael Warnock, right? This damn Sambo. You got to understand something. A lot of these people on the stage on the first night, they repeated the same old talking points. They went into who they were, where they came from. They praised the states that gave them a shot. And then all of a sudden, they jump into these core, they have the same core issues. One of them being ABs or fetus deletions, talking about the crime rate, what they've done for the party. They all follow the same script. I want you to go back and watch the first night and really pay attention to what happened on the first night. It's all scripted. We know this. And a sleight of hand. I'm going to keep saying sleight of hand because, if you ever watch like Penn and Teller, where like one of my favorite tricks was when the dude was lighting a cigarette and it looked like he threw one on the ground and all of a sudden he appeared with another cigarette in his mouth. That's pretty much what we're seeing here. You're saying the violence is down. You toss that down on the ground. You strike up another conversation, a.k.a. the cigarette, and everything's all fine. Meanwhile, the cigarette is still freaking burning, and you're lying to the people who you're supposed to be protecting. Is that not sleight of hand? Is it not? And then you get this idiot up here who should have never been a congressman. Like I have reservations for people who come from a background of preaching because they know how to manipulate people. They know how to speak to people spiritually and socially. They're very good at it. This man his father was a pastor, God rest his soul. And you can't tell me that he didn't pick up how to talk to people and be in tune with folks. Even if he is lying, it's like he can be your best fucking friend. But let's hear what he had to say. Because I have a problem with the party of slavery trying to convince us that this woman is black, we should vote for him, and that everything's going to be all good for black people if you continue to vote Democrat, even though the community has been in the same fucking spot for 50 fucking years. Tell me how. Tell me how. Let me calm down a little bit. Tell me how and why you should continue. Tell me.
Was my then 82-year-old mother. She grew up in Waycross, Georgia. Do you know where that is?
Out in the middle of no fucking where.
Waycross, Georgia.
Ain't shit in it.
She grew up in Waycross, Georgia, where she picked other people's cotton.
I want to say that's where Warner Robins Air Force Base is.
Other people's tobacco. But because this is America, the 82-year-old hands that used to pick somebody else's cotton and somebody else's tobacco.
Like, if you notice that all these black folks they put up here to speak start leaning into slavery, trying to play on the heartstrings of everybody who's involved.
Picked her youngest son to be a United States Senator. This is my America. Thank you, Mom.
What's up, Zombie? I don't know why I'm not seeing you guys sorry, chat on
Thank you, America,
on the vertical stream. It's being weird.
And using your vote. A vote is a kind of prayer for the world we desire for ourselves and for our children. And
I'm gonna try to fix that right now.
When we pray together. So together we flipped the Senate, held the House, and we sent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House. Together.
That was on a technicality.
Together we vaccinated our citizens, we fortified our cities and our towns, and we stood by our small businesses. Together we set out to heal the land. A nation besieged by a deadly pandemic and beset by the awful and divisive rhetoric of a man too small for the office entrusted him or the task set before him.
And I just want to say before I continue, my apologies for Vavo, the zombie drone or whatever. However you say it. My apologies. I didn't realize that some of my links had changed, so I didn't see you on the chat right away. But shout out to you. I appreciate you for stopping by, and I appreciate you for watching. Everybody on the vertical chat, I'm doing this vertical and horizontal. Thank you for stopping by. I'm just going through the RNC and some of the things that I saw last night. While they're lying to people. I'm not trying to convince you to vote for either party, but I'm an advocate for the truth and what we should be looking at. I'm also an advocate for free thinkers. Don't feel like you are alone when you're talking amongst folks and they kind of give you the side eye. It's okay. Come here to the manosphere and we will talk about it, because that's what we're all about. We're trying to gather all the men together, all people who think outside the norm, who want to fix this country, and that's what we want to do. We just want to spread the information. This is me doing my part as far as the community goes, into talking to people and giving them different ideas, because I'm aware of what's going on, and I know where the lies are. I know where to find the information. I just want more people to be aware of what's going on. That's why I call this live stream Sleight of Hand. We're trying to expose it like Penn and Teller, trying to expose the magic tricks that these folks are trying to play with you, whether it's on the right or the left. I did a live stream about the Project 2025 and talked about it. All it is a 900-page wish list of shit that's never going to happen, ever. And I stand by that. You know what I'm saying? I'm a black man. I don't, some parts of it I agree with, because you can, being objective, you can agree with certain things at certain points, but you also have to have the ability to not just be a drone and agree with things just because people say so. Okay? All right, continuing on.
The day after my January 5th election, he instigated an insurrection, a violent assault on our nation's capital.
We saw the video. In some of those cases, they just let the people walk right through. It's like they invited them in. It was like a setup. Cut it the fuck out. What some of these people received as far as jail sentences go when they were invited in, I do not agree with. Would I have shown up on January 6th? Hell no. I ain't got that kind of time. I really don't.
The peaceful transfer of power, all driven by the big lie. But behind the big lie was an even bigger lie. It is the lie that this increasingly diverse American electorate does not get to determine the future of the country.
I want y'all to pay attention to his cadence as he's speaking.
The logic of January 6th is a sickness.
Is this not a preacher?
It is a kind of cancer that then metastasized into dozens of voter suppression laws.
Terry Crews from Wish.
And we must be vigilant tonight because these anti-democratic forces are at work right now in Georgia and all across our country. And the question is, who will heal the land?
All right. So he talked about anti-democratic forces, right? We are a Republican democracy, okay? Republic democracy, whatever you want to call it, right? So under this administration and the folks in power currently, I can tell you that these folks have and shout out to you, Peyton T, Save the Kids. I can tell you that there are organizations, not NGOs, non-government organizations, who have been lobbying for dollars to get research monies. So they continue to look into spaces like mine, like Machismo TV, who you see flash up on the screen, to a lot of the people in the red pill community, the manosphere, the entire diaspora of men's content. They're looking into it. The reason why they're looking into it is because a lot of us are great students at looking up information. There's a lot of scholars in this space. There are people who have real life lived experience. I myself am a veteran. I served 22 years and I retired. I've seen the world in combat. I've been 3 times. I've seen how these folks treat us on the battlefield, how we interact with other peoples of other nations, the rules and stuff that are applied and things that we can and can't do. So I have a plethora of experience to deal with certain issues. One day, maybe I will make a run on office. Maybe I will. But for me, myself, to sit here and tell you that these folks are lying and I have the tools to look into the information, I know where to look, we're not lying. We're telling you the absolute truth. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm not here to tell you something to get you to vote a certain way. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't care who you vote for. I just want you to be informed. The men in this space want you to be informed. They don't want you to keep voting down the same path, because that is pretty much insanity, going for the same thing over and over and over, putting these people in power, and all of a sudden you wake up one day like, damn, nothing's changed, and you're wondering why. Well, we're telling you why. This fucker right here on screen is lying his ass off. This is one of the reasons why, body language is important. He's looking all around the place instead of looking dead set into the camera with conviction and telling us exactly what he thinks and what he believes. This man is bought and paid for. He has no choice but to support this party, because somewhere down the line, he's going to need support of these people to pass a bill, whatever he plans on doing. I haven't heard of any bill that he's authored yet. He's going to need their support if he does so. He want to stay in the good graces, just like the in crowd in high school. What we are privy to today in this great democracy of ours is like a perpetual high school. You got the in crowd, which is our Congress and our president, whatever. This is exactly how high school was. Think back to when you were in school. You had a class president. You had certain officers who took care of certain things. Those could represent the branches of government, the certain offices that people try to get elected to. And then you had the in crowd within that government. This is exactly what we're looking at. Make sure you clip this part of the conversation. Clip it. This is perpetual high school. They expect people to be stupid, not looking to what they're saying, looking to their actions. We are more connected than ever. It's almost impossible for you not to look into the personal lives and the bills that every politician here has voted for. I don't champion any politician, but I do stand behind certain folks that get shit done. That's why I kind of like Donald Trump, because he did the tax bill. He did stop people from moving overseas. I mean, he threatened a lot of damn countries. He tried to keep manufacturing here, and as soon as his ass was out of office, guess what? You had several companies. Who is one of our biggest manufacturers who is still here in the States? I'll give you a minute. It is John Deere. John Deere is trying to take this shit and run over to Mexico because it's cheaper to build. rather than pay American workers. Now, you can't stand on the fact that, once upon a time, American made stood for something. It was almost like the same connotation that military grade had. Military grade used to be the top of the top of the top standard, just like American made at one point. You don't get that anymore because ain't shit made here. Carrier was going to take their ass overseas until Donald Trump threatened them with tariffs to bring shit back in here, which is why I think the tariff system is important. See, people want to buy, trade, and sell here at as cheap as possible. It's a basic business practice. I don't knock them for it. I don't knock them for it at all. Because if I want to sell something here and they want to charge me extra money to sell stuff here, okay, I want to get the best deal I possibly can. That's just being a businessman. So these other countries have taken advantage of the weak-ass, jelly-back Democrats in our country, to which they have no tariffs, virtually no tariffs, on anything that they bring here, but they're allowed to sell us whatever the fuck they want to, and we don't get any extra dollars off of it. You're stealing business from Americans, stealing our money, taking our tax dollars. And for what? I guarantee you, if you had instrumented at least a 25% tariff or 50% tariff on some of the stuff coming in here, you would greatly shrink down that damn debt. Last time I checked, the debt ceiling was over $35 trillion. How many of those dollars would be eaten up by tariffs if we charge people for bringing stuff into our country? If we can't sell shit in your country without a tariff, why should you be allowed to sell things in our country without a tariff? And that's part of civics class, something that they took out of schools, how we deal with other countries, how we interact with other countries. It was taken out of our schools. But anyway, let's jump back to this fucking bald bitch up here lying.
And so here we are, America. Are you ready?
No.
Are you ready to stand up in this moral moment?
Jonathan Stewart, punk ass, was in the crowd. Interesting. It was a Republican president that extended the 9/11 stuff, by the way.
And we must decide, again, we are the latest generation of Americans who get to decide what kind of country we want to be. We must choose between the promise.
No, we want to be a country of slaves. Understand? I'm a black man, so I can say it. I can get away with it. We want to be a country of slaves. You want to allow an influx of people. You got to understand something. When you allow people to jump the border, like at one point, and I got to find that video where the professor talked about this. If you allow 1 million people into your country per year, that's fine. By the time they mature in this country, by the time their children come of age, this society will have grown enough to absorb those jobs. I've said this before. Now, when you allow 20 million people just come in here, just 20 million flat, right? Come in here. At this present time, there is not enough resources to go around to accommodate an extra 20 million people. This is why borders and stuff like that was enforced in the first place, because your society, your government, your systems cannot support an insane amount of people just coming in drawing resources. It's impossible. So, just like what they call the great replacement theory that they accuse the right wing of, this is what the Democrats are doing. The oligarchs want their cheap labor. They will stop at nothing to get it. They don't care who they upset. To the people who are wealthy, you are just a number. You're just somebody else who's adding money and making them rich. They don't know who you are. They don't know your name. If you're not the person who's primarily getting the money, they don't give a shit. They don't care. So, if you add millions of people who are also going to give them money and make them rich and wealthy and allow them to keep more of their money by not paying you a whole lot, what do they care? You understand why there are so many tech billionaires out there? See, one thing about the tech billionaires, I'm going to drop this piece and I'm going to play the video some more. One thing about the tech billionaires that I noticed is that they don't have a huge overhead. They don't have a huge number of buildings. They don't have, a lot of employees because a lot of stuff is automated. A lot of stuff is technology. They're selling a product that is digital, and digital products don't have to pass through a lot of hands. They don't have to be shipped on a truck or a train or plane or whatever, planes, trains, and automobiles. They don't have to. A lot of their products exist on the internet, whether it be advertising, downloads for music, movies, and television. They don't have to do a whole lot. All they need is a handful of people who are really good with the internet, who can administer security policies, who can secure their networks, secure their net worth, to design new products, to get more people to sign on and buy and use their stuff. They don't have that huge overhead because it only takes a couple hundred employees, right? Whereas you have Walmart, who has thousands upon thousands of employees. You have the federal government, who probably has close to 1 million employees. That is a huge overhead. So if you don't have to pay people a whole bunch and you're just sucking in nothing but profit, and you're using maybe the smallest number of people possible to get the job done, it's no wonder you're a tech billionaire. It's no wonder that when Elon Musk came in Twitter, he hacked a bunch of jobs. He axed a bunch of jobs that were pretty much worthless. And Twitter is running just fine. You could find it, and even with the advent of AI, you'll find that, IBM said that once certain people leave the job field, they're not going to replace them. They're not backfilling any of their jobs. They're using AI to take over some of the functions of some of the employees who leave their organization. So, of course, IBM has been around a long time. They're going to stay wealthy. They're going to stay rich. They're going to stay functioning because a lot of the world's systems depend on IBM machines. Hence the name IBM. Okay? So, if you really think about it, if you've ever been to Qatar, or you've been to, matter of fact, the UAE or the United Arab Emirates, you'll understand that over there, they bus workers in during the day, and they bus the majority of their workers out at night. That's what America is starting to become. The only people you see out and about enjoying the nightlife are the super wealthy, the royal family, the people that come there who are wealthy enough to hang around the royalty. That's what you're looking at.
Of January 5th.
And these motherfuckers are part of the boule.
Of January 6th. A nation that embraces all of us or just some of us. Donald Trump's America is the America of January 6th. People who have no vision traffic in division. He does not know how to lead us, and so he wants to divide us. America, make no mistake, Donald Trump is a plague on the American conscience. He is a clear and present threat to the precious covenant we share with one another. And yes, I saw him holding the Bible and endorsing a Bible as if it needed his endorsement. He should try reading it. It says, do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. He should try reading it. It says, love your neighbor as yourself. It says, inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, you have done it also unto me.
I find it interesting that these folks are quick to pull out the Bible. And look at this man's face where I paused it at. That was completely by accident. He's probably thinking the same thing that I'm thinking because I am a Christian, right? How is it that as a Christian, you're able to talk about reproductive rights, you're able to talk about baby deletions and so forth, but in the Bible, you can't find anywhere that talks about deleting pregnancies? In fact, the act of getting pregnant without a husband is heavily frowned upon. This man is a son of a pastor, if not a practicing preacher himself. See, this is why a lot of men have left the church, because the structure of the church has been pretty much taken over by feminism and modern ways. You can't talk to people about Christianity and not step on a few toes. It's not going to happen. This man's face looks disgusted because of what he just heard. They got a mobile bus where they're allowed to perform fetus deletions and vasectomies. Now, neither one of those acts are even covered in the Bible. You're not allowed to do these acts, but yet you want us to call upon God to give you the strength to go through and perform these acts, or ask God to grant you the rights to perform these acts, right? Where is that at? How is that okay? Somebody explain it. How? So you're allowed to break the law of the Bible for the law of the land. If you're a Christian or religious person, your religion, the laws of the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, whatever, supersede the laws of man. So if God says, do not do these acts, then you should not do these acts, correct? I don't give a shit what federal law, state law, wherever you live says. You're supposed to listen to God, right? Because he's above all, right? Yet this man just sat here and talked about how Donald Trump held the Bible. But here's the thing. Donald Trump and his cohort do not agree with the whole abortion thing. And yes, they did a kind of, a coward move, in my opinion. And they passed it off to the states to decide, which is okay. I guess is okay. I don't agree with it. They ended up appointing the judges who ended up overturning Roe v. Wade. And I would suggest that people really look into the whole Roe v. Wade thing, because it was all based on a farce, which is why it was so easily struck down. It just took so long because, people wanted to uphold the status quo. But when you get down to the meat and potatoes of why Roe v. Wade happened, you'll understand that the lady involved really didn't want to have an AB, and that the people who wanted the rights to have ABs kind of pushed her into that direction, took the case over, took it out of her hand, which is why that lady ended up becoming an advocate against ABs, because they used her story and used her to get something accomplished. Isn't that the MO of the current Democratic Party? Is that not what we're seeing? Yet they continue to do this, and they're doing it right now in front of your face by parading this damn bus like it's a fucking tour bus. The tour bus of death is going to be rolling around this country, and we're supposed to be okay with it. Now, I didn't understand, when people would say that, they're doing all these demonic things and so forth. I didn't understand it back then, but it makes so much more sense now because of what's currently happening. And I'm glad that the internet is around so everybody can play witness to what is happening. This is absolutely insane what's going on. A tour bus of death. Look at this man's face. He's in the crowd. He's like, man, why the fuck did I decide to come here? What the hell am I doing being a Democrat? And shout out to you, whoever this black man is, shout out to you for realizing that this is not the party for us. This party has used us. They've told us one thing and done other things. They haven't given you a single thing, at least on the other side, the opposing party, right? at least the grounds are kind of level, and the laws are kind of level to where if you apply yourself, it doesn't matter what color you are, you can achieve certain things. And that's what I want people to understand about what's going on with the Republican Party. Now, I'm not saying be all in and groveling on your knees to these folks, but I will say that the laws and things that they suggest are pretty fair across the board. Yes, some races are attached to that party, but like I said in the previous video that I did, you'll be hard pressed. You'll be hard pressed to find somebody who's going to say this shit to your face. And that says a lot about them.
I choose the American covenant.
American covenant.
Out of many one. I choose January.
Again, using words that are specifically featured in the Bible. Covenant meaning contract. God had many covenants with his people. But yet here you are abusing the word outside of the Bible, trying to get people to vote for this demonic ass party. This is crazy.
5th, I choose a nation that provides a path for ordinary people and gives every child a chance.
Gives every child a chance by lowering the education standards. You know that in certain jurisdictions, they've lowered the standards so much that they don't include D's and F's for people who clearly can't cut it. How do you learn from that? What do you get from people telling you that you've never failed? I think some of the best businessmen in this world will tell you that they failed multiple times before they had a business that took off. See, these lessons you teach your children will follow them to adulthood. And you appear talking about covenants and allowing people this, that, and the third. No, y'all don't. See, this will be evident if the current status quo and what's going on with the current financial situation, which is basically stealing your children's future. Because what happens? You got this high interest rate. You got people trying to continue to follow the American dream. They're getting into a house. They're going to end up paying double for the house by the time it's all said and done because of the amount of money's involved. They won't have anything left to pass on to their children except a bunch of debt. The same house that cost $300,000 today, yesterday, cost $600,000, and by the time you finish paying for it, you're going to be in the grave. Your children are going to take over that house. They're still going to have to pay on that loan or refinance. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll have a job that can afford the payments on it. Because by the time they get it, let's say they have $100,000 left to go, but they're paying $3,000 a month. Show me some jobs today where your children can afford $3,000 a month on the mortgage. See, when your grandparents paid their mortgage, they were probably paying maybe $800 to $1,000 a month, which is easily affordable. They financed the house. They bought a house outright, if not that. See, the economic times have changed. A lot of what's driving the inflation, the interest rates, and why things are going up is because of some of the policies that Democrats are putting in place. By spending all your tax dollars overseas, that money got to be paid back. And guess who controls the interest rates in this country? It's the same federal government who's spending money over fucking seas. And I don't think people recognize that. You can't keep burning the candle at both ends and hoping that one day you're going to hit it big and the thing's going to fix itself. Stop selling your children's future down the fucking road. That's the same thing that boomers did. The fucking Gen X tried to fix the shit. But some of the boomers who are still in the office are continuing to push this shit further down the road. You can't keep kicking the can down the road and expect people to fix it. That's why people need to get the hell away from this damn party, stop the bullshit, and really open their eyes to what's going on. By continuing down this path another 4 years, you're selling your great-grandchildren out. This deficit is so wide now that not only am I paying for it, my children are paying for it, and your grandchildren are already paying for it, and their children are going to end up paying for it as well. $35 trillion is not a number that you can just scoff at. It's not going anywhere. The only way to fix it is stop spending. Stop this excessive immigration. Because not only do they have to pay for it, they also got to compete with people who are here illegally getting jobs. Getting the jobs that should belong to your grandchildren. The jobs that they got to compete for. And then a lot of these folks don't realize they're just being used as pawns to spread this message. Like, nah, we should go for it. We should keep the status quo going. As if it's going to fix anything. I'd guarantee you, if this bitch gets in office for 4 years, the price of eggs is going to hit $20. When Trump was in office, you could buy bread, eggs, milk, and some other shit for $20. $20 ain't getting you but one egg, one carton of eggs, milk, and hold the cheese. You're not getting it. It's not happening.
And that's Joe Biden's America. And he's been fighting for it for more than a half century.
Nah, his ass been fighting to put people in jail for the minorest of things.
President Biden, America is so much better because of you, a true patriot who has always put the people first.
Meanwhile, they're closing retail stores all over the place because, of theft and people can't buy shit. So they're stealing it and they're closing stores all over the place. There's starting to be more food deserts than ever before. But I continue.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. But I'll tell you something else. Not only is that Joe Biden's America, that's Kamala Harris's America.
Of course it is. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to be on here long. What exactly y'all thinking him for? Like, it's pointless listening to Joe Biden's speech. It's the same kind of shit that he said during the interview and during the previous address that he gave. It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. You can watch the rest of the interview. You can find it online if you'd like. I'm not going to link it in my description because I don't care that much. I listened to it. I watched all 6 hours or whatever the fuck it was of it. Like, me and my wife sat up for a good period of time. We were going back and forth talking about it. And it really gave me a headache to realize that these folks sat here and lied to your face. What are you thanking them for? You, as a black man, shouldn't be thanking this dude for anything. The 94 Crown Bill destroyed generations. I had friends who went to jail for petty possession charges who were damn grown men. We had smartphones when they got out of jail. They went to jail when we had flip phones with the little, 8-bit screen or whatever it was. And they end up getting out of jail when they were fucking grown-ass men. So what the fuck are you thanking them for? Locking people up behind petty crimes? For allowing law enforcement to get away with, I don't know, maybe picking on certain folks and people can prove it till today with the advent of body cams and camera cell phones? How many people are in jail today who didn't have a voice back then but would have a voice now if it wasn't for the fact that there are smartphones everywhere? Tell me. How many people are in the ground right now who took their own lives because maybe they were in a jail cell, wrongly accused of stuff, and they were just stuck in jail cells? I know a few. And then the messed up part about it is when you get the Innocence Project to come around, you know, decades later, exonerating people who have long passed on and vacating their sentences and stuff like that, just for the family's sake and for their peace of mind. There have been several cases of that. And these people are the result of going to jail behind the 94 crime bill. You could also argue that there are people who have taken their own lives because they couldn't get out of the mountain of debt that people like Joe Biden have allowed because of what? Because of student loans. You can't even discharge student loans under the bill that I showed on my TikTok, and I think I put it on my community tab. You can't discharge your student loans. You got $100,000 in loans, and the only way you get out of it is if you die. And then maybe, just maybe, they'll come after, you know, they might come after your estate. If you've acquired anything to leave to your children, they want a piece of that too. It's a sick game going on out here. It really is. But yet, we're wrong for pointing it out. This party is all about using your tax dollars to prop up people who will vote for them. They don't care about you per se. Once they got your vote, they don't give a shit. Once they got you in pocket, oh yeah, we got them. We're going to continue on. We're not going to give them anything that they've promised. We're going to serve our own interests. Look at Nancy Pelosi. This bitch has been a representative forever, and you can't say that she's not allegedly insider trading. She's up hundreds of percents on stocks you would have never thought about, and you can't say she's not allegedly insider trading. These people serve themselves. They're using the government as a stepping stone for generational wealth for their own folks. And Warnock is no different. I haven't heard anybody say, you know, I really respect Raphael Warnock, even when he was going for office against Bo Jackson, or what was it, Bo Jackson? Yeah. You didn't hear too many people have a lot to say. They just didn't want was it Bo Jackson because was it Bo Jackson? I can't remember his name, but the other black guy that he was going against, because he was a Republican. That's all they could say. All because he was a Republican. See, one thing that I noticed about the Republicans, not to toot their horn too much, is that when it comes to self-accountability in your own actions, they'll give you the tools to make something of yourself. That way, if you fail, you can't blame anybody else but yourself. But what these Democratic folks want to do, they want to do everything for you. They want to promise you programs that come out of the tax dollars, out of the pockets of other people, just so you continue to vote for them. Like, it's crazy how this works. These people are insane. I don't expect, like me as a man, I don't expect people to pay my way. But I do expect that if I'm paying taxes, that the money goes towards things we actually need. And I don't think too many men who would argue with that.
She was leading with Joe Biden when we expanded the child tax credit, cutting child poverty in America nearly in half.
Nobody's seen this bitch in 3.5 years. She has been hiding. It's the same tactic that Joe Biden did when he was under Obama. That motherfucker hid for 8 years. You didn't see him till it was time for a presidential debate. When it was time for a re-election, you didn't see him at all. So all in about, 8 years, you may have seen him maybe 2 months out of the whole 8 years, if you add up all the appearances.
We ought to renew it. She cast a tie-breaking vote for my bill capping the cost of insulin to no more than $35 per month for seniors. We ought to extend it to everybody. Together we passed an infrastructure bill, bolstered American manufacturing and clean energy, an investment in the house that we all share together. And I've got news for you, we are just getting started. Are you ready to win this election? Kamala Harris.
Yep, exactly. Southern preacher flow.
And Tim Walz represent the new way forward. We're not going back.
All right, man. I got to get out of here, man. I watched this once already. I can't listen to this shit anymore. I really can't. Like it actually really pisses me off. Yeah, this is the Southern preacher flow, right? He said we're not going backwards, right? You can't go backwards if you never moved in the first place. You can't go backwards if you never fucking moved in the first place. The black community has been in the same spot for over 50 years. Where have we moved? All they did was dress you up like this fucking court jester that you are. So tell me something. Where have you moved? Where have we gone forward? Yeah, we got rights and stuff like that. I mean, maybe that's a step forward in the right direction. But that movement was also co-opted by that civil rights movement was also co-opted by the feminists. So it kind of weakened the movement and what we really were trying to do. But y'all keep accepting these buttered biscuits and trinkets and so forth from these people and social programs that ain't doing shit but keeping folks lazy and in the way of progress, of true progress, rather. Keep on. I just find it amazing how they find a black face and they make you try to make you feel guilty for not following these people when we know these are the wrong people to follow. They're the wrong people to follow. This dude just sat up here and lied in our face and used the same talking points as the 4 or 5 people that came before him with reproductive rights, which we don't give a shit about that. Because, hell, most men don't have any fucking rights. If you get somebody pregnant, you're assed out. That's it. Keep it in your pants. That's all you're being told. You're also being burdened with having to support a party who will use the tax dollars for everything except you. Should I remind you that My Brother's Keeper was co-opted by folks? Now it includes everybody. Men that look like you, sir. Men that look like you, sir, have been co-opted. Every program for you and your sons has been co-opted. They've been sued into oblivion. Yes, you, sir, have been so sued into oblivion, My Brother's Keeper, because they thought it was unfair. They thought it was unfair that what's going on. Hang on, let me get this right here. Where is it? Scripts, docs, view. They thought it was unfair that, certain folks were getting any type of anything, right? As far as when it comes to men, they swear we have an advantage, but a majority of the programs that exist today serve everybody but men. You can go in and do a scholarship search on when you do a scholarship search on scholarships for men, you don't see anything. You really don't.